Welcome to DFS Karma, where we talk about our favorite fantasy sports plays for football, basketball, baseball, and pretty much everything else. Be sure to check out and create an account with all of our partners, such as MonkeyKnifeFight.online, PrizePicks.online, and StatHero.online. Use the promo code KARMA on any of these sites to get an exclusive deposit bonus. And don't forget to check out all of our free fantasy content on DFSKarma.com, as well as our own premium plays. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Please welcome today's hosts.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 3 edition of Game Theory Thursday, your favorite NFL DFS podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I fixed the stream. It is no longer a black screen with just Anthony and I's faces. That was a disaster. It was a disaster on Tuesday. I had no time to fix that, so that was the most scuffed-looking video ever. But we're back. We got the banners back and everything. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am joined by Sam and Bales today. The people of YouTube were angry at Matt, so he gave him a one-pod suspension. He will be back in Week 4 after being banished. Sam had a one-pod suspension last week for going to the bathroom in the middle of the podcast. So then now we had to serve one out to Matt. But we're going to stick to our same format. We're going to talk about the best 4 or 5 games. And then we'll talk some chalk and some tournament pivots before we head out. The first game we're going to talk about is the Dallas Cowboys and Seattle Seahawks over-under of, 55 and a half. Massive over-under. Everyone should be on this game after the Falcons and Cowboys just popped off for, 70 points last week. I mean, that was the nuts game, even with Tyron Smith out. Zeke fade actually didn't work, didn't kill me last week because Dak trolled with 3 one-yard touchdowns or whatever he did. Absolutely unbelievable. But we'll have to wait and see. The problem with doing this podcast on Wednesday is we don't know a ton about some injury situations. So I know Dallas is still banged up on defense, obviously. We'll wait and see later on in the week with some other injuries, which we'll talk about later. But Sam, I'll kick it to you, let you start out here. I think this is clearly like a stat game. Like you're going to want, like if I was playing 50 lineups, I would want at least one piece of this game in probably at least like 40 of them. Like this is such a good game. You're going to want to build around it in cash games. So tell me how you're attacking this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably spend a ton of time going through this. And I don't need to tell people that you should, I think every single, both number 1, number 2, maybe even number 3 in the case of CeeDee Lamb is playable. Both quarterbacks are playable. I think it's just the only spots I think you can get any sort of, and call it quote unquote leverage in the chalk game of the week, and I wouldn't avoid it because it's chalk. I mean, I think Gallup after I guess a bad performance last week, he didn't have a ton of catches due to that clutch catch at the end of the game, but I could see Gallup being the under-owned between him and Amari, even though he's cheaper just because Amari kind of went off and Amari kind of looks healthy, but I think the way I want to play this game is kind of playing both sides of it. And I want to play Julio after, assuming he's healthy after he burned me last week. But I think the interesting play here that no one's going to kind of go to, and we've kind of talked about it pre-pod, is Chris Carson. I'm glad that, finally Russ is getting to throw the ball so we can see that he's the best quarterback in the league. Finally, definitely better than Lamar, Bales. But the fact that, he's been involved in the reception game. He has 2 reception touchdowns, in the first 2 games. So I like Carson a lot. He's kind of one of my highest rated backs for the week. And I think in a game, I think is expected to be chalk, and I will have a lot of pieces. I think going to a guy like that and going to Hayden Hurst are kind of how I'm going to, get a piece of the chalk game, but also kind of get a little bit of leverage in the field.
Bales?
Yeah, Sam outlined it pretty well. If Smith's playing, Michael Gallup, I said last week was Gallup week. That faded away as soon as Smith wasn't playing. They need time for Dak, for Gallup to really be that effective. So if Smith's back in, I'll load up on Gallup this week just because with CeeDee Lamb being 100 cheaper, and obviously getting the higher target share specifically last week. In recency bias, people are just going to play Lamb. Go ahead and move to Gallup for 100 more. It's completely fine. I mean, Sam more or less nailed it. You can basically use anyone in this game. I think the odd spots are going to be Chris Carson, like he said. I don't really think anyone's going to play Dalton Schultz, but he saw 10 targets last week. He's a completely fine play. I doubt that I'm really going to go there at 4,500. And then I know Dallas struggles against tight ends. We kind of said that with Matt last week and Hayden Hurst. I'm probably not going to go to Greg Olsen. I just don't think that you really need to. But outside of that, like, you have the 3 receivers for Dallas. You have Metcalf and Lockett, both fantastic. Zeke is always really in play. Like, Zeke scored 25 last week, and Dak ran in 3 touchdowns from like the 1. He's just a great play everywhere. And then obviously Prescott and Wilson, not much needs to be said. You can play either of them.
Yeah, we're going to talk about DK just burning Stephon Gilmore on that long touchdown. I mean, how about that?
DK looks good.
Okay, I agree. That was, first of all, I think, and yes, it's coming from a Patriots fan, people keep saying he got burned. Did you actually see the slow-mo? Like, Gilmore actually covered him extremely well. DK is just that good in the past.
Yeah, he didn't, like, toast him, but
no, I mean,
it's
I
just
agree.
crazy.
No, I mean,
He's just a grown man, dude. It's crazy.
No, I mean, the fact that Gilmore gave up a touchdown and like 80 yards to DK was impressive. I mean, there's nothing taken away from it. I mean, DK is clearly a stud. I just want to, get my Patriots homerism in there. The fact that Gilmore is still incredibly elite.
Do we want to just quick discuss that Tyler Lockett continues with being the most efficient player in NFL history, catching 15 of 16 targets again? I will never understand how this guy does it.
Yeah, I was going to save this for the chalk section, but so where do you guys lean if you have to pick one of DK or Lockett this week?
I mean, for me, I like that Lockett's in the slot. I mean, I think who's the slot cover Dallas Bales? Is it like Lewis? I mean, he's horrible, I think. I mean, and just because, not that I don't want to play DK, I just think Lockett will be the lesser owned. I mean, everyone saw DK go full man on Sunday night in a great game. So that's who I would pick to kind of, I mean, again, we might be talking a couple percent, but I think Lockett has I don't think he has as much. His ceiling could be lower than DK's, but I think his floor is really, really good. And like Bales has said, he just gets a lot of targets and gets them. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I would have a slight lean right now towards Lockett just because he's so efficient that he's just kind of the safer option of the two. But realistically, it's not like you're going to convince me that either one is a bad play.
Yeah, it's just the nuts game. Like, you're going to want pieces here in cash. I mean, they actually are throwing a ton on first and second down Seattle, which is so good for Russ. Zeke, like you said, Zeke's floor is incredibly high. He's not going to get trolled with touchdowns like that again. I mean, Dak taking 3 in. And the one was after Dak came out of the injury tent. He came right in the game and ran it in. I was like, what is going on? But, that's just not going to happen again. And he's so involved in the passing game this year. His floor is really high, so I do like him. This is CeeDee Lamb week, I think. I know he's going to be chalky, but I don't know. Seattle's banged up on defense as well. They lost Bruce Irvin. They lost Marquise Blair. He just, obviously, like, we knew he was really good coming out, but it hasn't even been a struggle for him to fit in this offense. So I do think Gallup's a good tournament pivot, but Lamb is in such a good spot as well. So you just want all the pieces here. We'll move on to the next game, which is going to be another chalky game. Like, ownership is going to be extremely concentrated on these 2 games this week. It's the Arizona Cardinals, Detroit Lions. Over-under is up to 54.5, and it's super interesting because both of these are 425 games. So, like, I don't know. You're going to be sitting in cash games. It's going to be weird. Like, there's going to be so much PMR lift for everybody, but Bales, I'll start with you this time. Lions are getting Kenny Golladay back, which is big. They are still banged up in the secondary. Kyler Murray was chalk last week, delivered a huge game, rushing the ball again. The Lions have no pass rush at all, and they've just really been bad against the ground. So I know you're on Kenyon Drake here, but I think this is another spot where you're going to want at least one piece to this in your lineup. A lot of the time in tournaments and cash games, you might end up with 2 or 3 pieces to this game as well.
Yeah, I mean, the big guy that I'm on is Kenyon Drake. Detroit's run defense has been absolutely hard, and we've seen Drake just go for these ridiculous games. Like last year, he had those 2 out of his final 3 games where I think 40+ fantasy points. They were just crazy. I think it's impossible to actually project that he would do something as ridiculous as that. And I think Kyler Murray and then obviously DeAndre Hopkins are 100% fine. Actually, that I don't know. It's hard for me to say that I would rather Kyler Hopkins than a piece of the Dallas-Seattle game right now, but you might actually have to end up going that way. Outside of that, I think Christian Kirk, assuming he practices and is cleared for the game, I think he's a really sneaky tournament option because his price tag has dropped. He's down at 4,500. He was 43 last week, but 5K week 1. He has, I believe, the highest ADOT in the NFL right now at basically 21 yards per target. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So at some point in time, he's going to pop off. And I mean, this is just a really, really good matchup for it. On the other side, I'm cool with like TJ Hawkinson. Galladay in his first game back. I mean, he's only 6,200. I'll take a shot there if I want in tournaments, but that's basically it. I'm just not really that high on Detroit. I don't want to try to figure out, who they're going to be giving carries to. I'm just not interested whatsoever in that. And with Galladay back, it's really hard for me to play Marvin Jones since, he hasn't really commanded a ton of targets with Galladay. And I know it probably ends up helping him just because they're not going to be as focused on him. But in his first game back, I probably just wouldn't go there.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was actually about to say exactly what Bales did about Marvin Jones. I mean, I think he's an interesting play in tournaments, like a massive one, only because he will just be like negative owned because he was uber chalk week 1. Didn't do anything. I mean, he's seen a bunch of targets. Like I think he's seen 14 for the first 2 games. But again, like Bill said, it's not like he's smashed and now he has Galladay back who's significantly better and should mop one of the targets. I just think he's an interesting dart. I mean, he's a big, boomer bust guy, right? I mean, he could catch 2 touchdowns and go 150 yards on like 6 catches, or he could do pretty much nothing. I think this is a gross play. I'm just trying to like be somewhat different. So the Detroit backfield is insufferable, and I hate Matt Patricia, and he's the worst. But it's weird that like they split all these snaps. Like no one really gets over like 35 or 40% of the snaps, but DeAndre Swift like gets the targets and actually has had like a lot of I'm not sure people know. It's like there's a guy Ben Gretsch used to work for CBS, and he talks about like high value touches, and DeAndre Swift actually ranks 3rd of running backs in the slate for high value touches. I mean, it's a complete boom or bust play, but no one's going to own Swift. And if you want to get like weird in a tournament, I would go Swift. And it is a little bit going to be like touchdown dependent, and it's tough to have the game script. I just thought that was interesting to note when I was doing my research today that it's annoying he doesn't play a ton of snaps, but he is getting the targets. And if he doesn't get leached by Adrian Peterson, he could have some solid value, but again, that's more of a dark throw. I just thought it was interesting. I think the best play, like Bale's kind of alluded, I think Hawkinson could be a great play. Just, people go back to Galladay and Hawkinson get a lot of targets. So that's how I'd probably attack this one.
Yeah,
I'm going to get so much hate for Swift call. Oh, my God.
I don't think
Swift
it's that bad in tournaments because I think Swift is good. It's just the situation.
He's leading the team in snaps at running back by like a relatively wide margin. He's at 40%, and both the other 2 are at 28.
Like it's literally what, like him carry on Adrian Peterson are all between like 30 and 40. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just another great game. Lions, a man-heavy team, can't get any pressure on the quarterback, so it's another smash spot for Kyler. I think he's going to be maybe the highest owned quarterback in cash games on DraftKings. Again, I think he's fine in stacks. I'm good with using Stafford now that we got Galladay back. So I think that's an interesting pivot if you're assuming most people will go for like the Cardinal stack. Hopkins is, probably the best wide receiver play on the slate with the targets that he's been seeing. Got involved in the red zone last week. And, secondary is really banged up for Detroit. So I do think it's just, another great game. You're going to want pieces here in all of your lineups. The next game that we're going to talk about is a surprising one. I cannot believe this is the third highest over-under on the main slate, but Tennessee, Minnesota, 48.5. We need to wait and see if A.J. Brown is going to play. The Vikings look like they could be down a couple corners. They missed Dantzler last week. I think Hughes is probably going to miss. But their defense is just horrible. Anyways, I don't know if you guys got to watch, but they literally could not tackle Jonathan Taylor last week. It was hilarious. So I think it sets up really well for Derrick Henry. Even Sam's boy Tannehill, I think, is in play against this defense. It's just tough for me. I know he was super efficient last year, but again, he was super efficient last week as well, right? He didn't even throw the ball 30 times, and he had a ton of touchdowns. So it's just tough for me to bank on that. And Henry, it's just, I always default to Henry. I think Henry's such a good play this week. I'm hoping people fade him because he was chalk in cash games last week and only had 8 fantasy points. So he's clearly my favorite game here, or my favorite play here. But I think Thielen's interesting as well, just because he didn't have a big week in week 2. So people will probably be off him as well. But Sam, are you firing up the Tannehill stack in tournaments?
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to tell you guys pre-pod how it's I feel like all my leverage pivots and contrarian worked out last week, and then all my chalk busted, which was sick, including Derrick Henry. Yeah, dude, Tannehill, it's funny. I used to never be a Tannehill guy. I remember last year you suggested him in cash, and I was that's the most egregious thing I've ever heard. But, I mean, he has his guys, and, he's facing just a bad defense. It's a small sample, obviously, but on this slate, he's top 10 in points per dropback. And I think, I'm not sure you want to go full stack here. And I agree. I thought, I didn't know if AJ Brown was out for a while, but Jonnu Smith is just a stud. I mean, he's first in tight ends on the slate in points per touch. He's commanding, it doesn't seem like a ton, but he has 4 red zone targets. He's playing, what's his name? Their other tight ends are not really even used. And I think it's funny that last week was a perfect spot for Corey Davis to be just the horrific chalk. He probably didn't deserve to get that touchdown and get there and kind of burn people who faded him. But I would honestly not mind playing Tannehill, Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith again. And like you said, we're running back with Thielen. I'm not sure. Last week I got Tannehill at under 1%. I'm not sure I'm going to get that again, but I don't hate it. I must say, I just have no interest in the Vikings side of the ball. First of all, I think this game's going to be kind of slow because Mike Zimmer is so obsessed with running the ball. But I just think that the Vikings suck. Kirk Cousins still sucks. And I don't really know. Who else? I guess I'm kind of turned to Bales, and I guess you after this, Ben. But, I don't know who I would even have interest in receiving-wise besides Thielen. I just don't think anyone is reliable enough to play at this point. I could be wrong.
For me, Thielen. Bring it back with Thielen. He has he actually leads the league in his percentage of air yards on his team. It's at almost 54%. It's ridiculous. People won't go there because last week he obviously didn't do very well. I don't care. We saw what he did week 1. If he's hitting big time. If he's missing, it's just kind of what you have to do in GPPs. I will say the funny thing is that the one guy commented on the Perfect Pivot pod, making fun of me for saying that Ryan Tannehill has a ceiling, and then he obviously went out and threw 4 touchdowns in that game. So it was really funny. And if they weren't so efficient, he would have did significantly better. But the epitome of safe with upside, because it's not that he hits the upside that often. And I don't even know if I would say that this is a matchup where I would be looking for it. But he's gone 3x in every game that he started with the Titans, except for 1. That's excluding the postseason. I don't actually know. I didn't look into that. But 3x in all but 1 game. It's 13 or 14 games. And then obviously he has 5x closing on 6x upside. So Tannehill's fine. If AJ Brown's back, I feel like you can always use him. Completely agree with Derrick Henry. And then Jonnu Smith is just, I love Jonnu Smith. I liked him coming out of college, and took a little while for him to get going, but I really like him. My only issue is I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay 5.2 for my tight end. And then on the other side, Dalvin Cook is fine. I feel like it's weird because he just doesn't get that many touches, but he can always go like 80 for a touchdown. So you don't really need the 30 touches out of him. And then Adam Thielen is one of my favorite tournament options. Listed in my article for GPPs, and then took him out. He was the third guy.
Yeah, Thielen is such a good play. We did see some Justin Jefferson last week, surprisingly, but I don't think I would go there. I don't know. So if you guys think, like, we know that the Vikings are going to play slow and run the ball, like, I just don't think it's that good of a game because there are some other more attractive games. Obviously the two that we just talked about, but I think there's some other sneakier spots as well. So I just don't I don't see this as like a massive shootout game, especially with how the Vikings just team in general has looked. So I think Henry's a great play. I think you can use Tannehill if you want and stack him with a receiver, and then you can run it back with Thielen. I think that's fine, but overall, not a great game. Cook, for me, is always a tournament play. He's never going to be owned like a Zeke or like a McCaffrey when he's healthy, but I mean, he does get a ton of, like, if they get the ball like inside the 10, they're going to give it to Dalvin Cook. So he always has the ability to score touchdowns, which is good on a site like FanDuel, where it's not full point PPR, but I don't know. This isn't my favorite game. You have any last thoughts on this, Sam?
I mean, no. I mean, I don't know. I just think my current projection. I mean, I only initial for Corey Davis is like under 5%. If that holds, like, the Vikings have been torched by. I mean, now I wouldn't exactly say Corey Davis is equal to Devontae Adams. I think they're a little different, maybe. But in general, I mean, like, their secondary blows. So, like, I think I agree with everything you're saying that this wouldn't be like my I'm so excited to target this game, but I think it'll be an under-owned for a game. It's the third highest Vegas total in the slate, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The next game we're going to talk about is the Las Vegas Raiders, New England Patriots. So I gave this away on the cash process, but 47.5 over-under right now. I think the Patriots are going to roll here. Vegas is on a short week. They had that big win against the Saints in prime time on the Island game, and now they got to travel for this 1 p.m. game. Like, I think they're going to get stomped. I think this is a big spot for the Patriots at home. I think that Cam is going to have another big game. So we were talking about this before we hopped on here, but Cam is essentially the quarterback and the running back for the Patriots at this moment in time. Has 11 carries and I think 15 in his 2 games. And, dude, it's just like, he is so good when he's healthy, and he clearly looks healthy now from a fantasy perspective. So I think he's such a good pivot. I don't think he's going to be up there with Kyler or Russ in terms of ownership. So I think Cam is such a good pivot. I think N'Keal Harry is $4,200 on DraftKings, a really strong play if you want to stack him with someone. I think he's top 10 in the NFL in targets right now, surprisingly. And we kind of heard about them having a connection in training camp. Edelman's actually been getting used downfield, which is the weirdest thing to me. Like, I've never seen this before, but they're actually letting him run downfield and throw to him rather than just peppering him with the short targets. So I just think a Patriots stack is a really good tournament place. I think the defense is in a good spot. On the Raiders side, you have Jacobs, but I'm not over the top with him in this spot. I'll always have some tournament shares of Henry Ruggs, but or a Darren Waller maybe, but I don't know. I like a Patriots stack here, but Sam, I'll let you go first since you're a Patriots fan. You can tell me what you like in this game.
I don't know if this is just going to be a trap, but Demary Bird is $3,000 a so the first week he didn't do anything, and he played a lot of the snaps and had 0 receptions. And then week 2, played 85% of the snaps, saw 9 targets, caught 6 of them. I mean, I think this is going to be kind of a common thing this year, with the exception of maybe Edelman, that the Patriots are going to keep changing it up. I mean, we've never seen them ever be in the last 20 years a run-first offense. And Cam just is going to have so much of the, total yards for the team. But I think if you want to, really stack your cash lineup, with, really high-quality guys, I don't think Bird is, a terrible play. I agree that, Edelman and Harry are getting a lot of the targets. Obviously, all the running backs are completely unplayable. The only thing I'm wondering is I love Darren Waller. He's a freak athlete. I do wonder if the Patriots were to put someone like, and I don't even know if they can cover him, like put someone like Gilmore on him, because if they were, I mean, I think that'd be smart because he's their best cover guy. I don't know if they will do that. If I would have, I don't know how I could tell, but if I see any information that he would, I would have not a lot of interest in Waller. But if I were going to stack Cam, Edelman, Harry, I would just bring it back with Waller, because I think whoever's on Gilmore, I mean, that's a brutal matchup. But I mean, I agree with Ben that everyone saw the Raiders beat the Saints in a game they were supposed to lose. I think this is such a letdown spot. Traveling across the East Coast, I think and it's a weird line from Vegas. I think it's 5 or 5.5. I think they're going to get murdered. So I don't think the Raiders are incredible. And Jacobs is out of the question for me. I just don't think the game script is very good.
Yeah, I agree. More or less. I think Jacobs and Waller are two guys that you can always use. I feel like I would lean more towards Waller just because I expect Oakland to be down. Henry Ruggs is actually getting some really decent air yards from Derek Carr, which many of us didn't really see coming. But he's thrown the ball down the field a little bit to him. I think his ADOT's like 17. It's actually pretty good. You guys more or less outlined New England the way that I would. Cam's fine. I have no problems with Harry. As for Bird, yeah, I get he's 3K, but KJ Hamler's 3K too. So I'm not going to play 3K wide receivers, and I'm not going to play Damari Bird over KJ Hamler. I can tell you that much. As for Edelman, he's 62, but he is getting a ton of targets, and he is actually – there's two players in the NFL that have over 50% of their team's air yards. It's Adam Thielen and Julian Edelman. And doesn't it seem like no one ever wants to play Edelman? Like literally just no one plays the guy. So I really like that in GPPs. And I think that if you're going to use a New England stack, I think a lot of people are 100% fine playing Cam naked, which I'm cool with. He's just not going to get 2 rushing touchdowns every game. Like that's ridiculous to think. And if you're going to stack him with 2 receivers, Edelman and Harry are getting just so many targets. I think they both have 18 on the year. It's just a really, really good stack for the price, and actually is quickly becoming one of my favorite stacks on the slate.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are a great spot on the slate. My only problem is like the Raiders are just not a team that's going to play fast. So I don't know like about the shootout potential of the game if you want to like in terms of double stacking Cam, But I do like I think if I thought I was going to end up with Cam and Cash when we did the cash process, but now it's looking like I probably won't. So I probably will have like a Cam to Edelman or Harry stack in my 3 max. And I'm 100% betting the Patriots in this game. Like it's just such a good spot for them. The one thing interesting before we move on, Sam, what you said about putting Gilmore on Waller, I will be curious to see that because we know that they want to scheme to take away the best option on the other team. And that is Waller at the moment. And normally Chung is who would be on the opposing tight end, but he opted out, obviously, so he's not playing. So, yeah, I do think that would be – I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting if they did that. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But
I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not obviously a head coach. I'm sure there's a reason not to do that, and I'm sure it's a very good reason. But that just on first glance, like no one had an answer on the Saints for Waller. I mean, I don't expect that to change. I mean, he's an athletic freak and he's super efficient. I just wonder. I mean, basically, if they don't, like, I'd have interest, and I'm not sure, if maybe Gilmore goes and covers Ruggs. I know he's only played that side of the field, but then like Brian Edwards was getting a decent amount of targets on Monday. I think Ruggs is obviously way better, but I don't think these guys are gonna be that owned anyway because the Patriots are seen as a pretty strong defense, even with their opt-outs. But I don't know. I mean, would you guys ever consider just basically just stacking, going Cam, Edelman, Harry, and just not running it back, and just maybe assuming that they get up too much and it's kind of just whatever?
Yeah. For me, I'm fine doing that. I would probably bring it back with Waller. I also think you're probably looking at the made plays for Brian Edwards. He actually saw less targets than Henry Ruggs on Monday. Edwards ended with 2. He just caught both of them, and he made 2 pretty big plays, so it was nice. Whereas Ruggs saw 3 and only actually ended with 1 catch for 4 yards. So like it if you're watching the game, it does really seem like Edwards was like much better, but Ruggs was actually targeted more.
Actually makes more sense.
All right.
Yeah.
The last game we're going to talk about before we head to some cash and GPP talk is the Los Angeles Rams and the Buffalo Bills. This is my favorite game on the slate. I think it's already up 2.5 points, 47.5 over under. It opened at 45. The Bills, I talked about this all weekend to you guys. I know you guys were absolutely sick of me talking about Josh Allen because it's all I did for like 5 days last week. But the Bills are playing so much faster this year. They're letting him throw, like he's throwing a lot more, and the offense just looks way more fantasy friendly than what we saw in 2019. And then we know that the Rams have a prolific offense, and it's been right back. Like they're running play action more than any team in the NFL. They've been able to score points. They even look better than they did late last season, and they're up there in terms of offensive production. So I think that the shootout potential on this game is high, especially I haven't seen any updates on some of the injuries on the defensive side for the Bills, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think regardless, I do think this game has shootout potential with how their offense has been running. So Bales, I'll let you start here. Are you interested in this game as much as I am, and how are you attacking it?
I think I'm interested in it slightly less, but I actually feel like this game is like one that if both offenses get clicking, it's gonna go, and it's really gonna go. So that's kind of what you're hoping for, and I feel like we more or less know who to use. Obviously, Josh Allen or Goff. Feel free to use both of them, and then you have the 4 like very key top receivers in Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Stephon Diggs, and John Brown. You can then add Tyler Higbee to your pool. I'm actually probably going to avoid Higbee. We know that Buffalo, are they getting their linebackers back?
Yeah, I don't have an update on that. If they're out, I think you could look at Higbee, but what did Higbee do last week, right? Like it was all touchdowns, right? Like I just can't
3
bank
touchdowns.
on that. Yeah.
That's what I mean. And then I'm sorry right now for the viewers. I don't know what to make of the Rams running backs. I don't know who's going to play. I don't know who's even slightly healthy. The one thing about running backs that I will say, Zach Moss mispracticed today. He has a toe injury. I don't know how serious it is. If he's out, I'm undoubtedly playing Devin Singletary at 4,900. He's been fine.
I assume you're going to play Devin Singletary anyway.
Yeah, you're playing him regardless, Bills.
You're playing him regardless, yeah.
Just so we're on the same page, he has very clearly outworked Zach Moss. It is the two aren't even close when they're on the field. It's just the Bills, their coaches don't see it that way, so it is what it is. But no, if Singletary is getting a full workload, he's already not doing half bad in very limited action. If he's going to get a full workload, I'll undoubtedly pay less than $5,000 for him. I think it would be ridiculous not to. If Moss plays, though, it's honestly tough to play Singletary because the touchdown potential just drops dramatically. But he's not really a guy that you're hoping is going to score in the red zone anyway. You kind of want to break a long one. So, like, am I okay if you want to take him in tournaments? Yeah, feel free. It's just you're probably not going to go there assuming Zach Moss is healthy.
Sam?
Yeah, I know for a fact I don't have as much interest in this game as Ben does. That wouldn't be possible. I think I'm the one who's wrong. I never play Josh Allen, not because I don't. Like, I like him a lot. I said this on the stream last week. Like, I like watching him. He's super fun. He's obviously really good. I just always seem to like quarterbacks better, but he's been nothing short of incredible. I'm pretty sure this year the Rams are running like the 5th fastest pace. The Bills are playing really fast, so I get it. Diggs has looked like an absolute monster, so I like it there. I always worry about the Bills running backs. How much of it is going to be taken by Allen? I'm sure there's obviously the numbers are there about if he is or isn't, but I don't know. I think if I was playing someone from the Rams, I don't mind Goff. I feel like he's very hit or miss. I'd probably play Robert Woods, maybe Cooper Kupp, but mostly I'd probably target Woods. I am like Bales. I was actually hoping Bales had the answer for me because I want to know if I can play Malcolm Brown or Darrell Henderson, or if I can play neither. It seems like neither. I thought Malcolm Brown had like a finger injury, but he's like playing, and I don't know.
Yeah, he does, but he's not practicing. Like, you think he would just play through it, but he's like not even practicing, like not doing anything at practice. So it's got to be like slightly bad.
I mean, I kind of hope I would love to play Henderson. I think that, I mean, I don't know. He's gotten a couple of targets. I mean, he just doesn't play a lot of the snaps. That's obviously because Akers has been there and everything. But I don't know, Ben. Ben, would you go full game stack on this one? You're saying, or do you just are you mainly just biased because you just want to play all the Josh Allen? That's a good thing.
No, yeah, I think that so this game reminds me of you remember when McVay first took over for the Rams, and we kind of had those shootouts between the Niners and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this game reminds me of with how these offenses have looked. I know it's only 2 games, but I'm kind of buying into that narrative in my head. So the running back situation for LA is interesting. Henderson would be the guy for me. So we'll have to monitor that news throughout the weekend, obviously. This is why it's so valuable for you guys to pick up a package, get into Discord, get access to Final Thoughts, because Bales and I, Sam and I, we're in there when, right when injury news breaks, like on Friday and Saturday, and we're immediately just giving our thoughts and stuff. People can ask us, and then we can update it without having to go into articles and all that stuff. But the Bills have not been good in the slot, and they've not been good in the middle of the field in general. I mean, last week, Gesicki went 8 for 130 against them. Isaiah Ford in the slot, 7 for 76. I mean, 7 for 76, Isaiah Ford did that. I just, they're not good in the slot. So I think Cooper Kupp could have a big game. I'm assuming Woods would be the likeliest to get a lot of Trey White. So I would probably run Josh Allen.
In that case,
yeah, I would run Josh Allen with one of Diggs and John Brown per usual, and then probably run it back with Cooper Kupp. But I will be interested in Singletary or Henderson, depending on what we get with the injury news there. But I just think it's a good shootout game, and I'm going to be heavily invested in that in tournaments. But
then,
go ahead.
I think my question on the Bills is, is Cole Beasley live this week? Cash playable?
Yeah, the problem with Beasley is just that they have Diggs now. Beasley was getting so much red zone work last year, but now they have Diggs. And then
you heard him say cash playable, right?
Dude, I did. I played Cole Beasley 3 times in cash last year. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's fine, but not this week. No, come on.
I think Ben and I cashed every week we played.
I think I did, and we played on Thanksgiving, and he scored a touchdown.
That's like teams that run the ball 30 plus times are 200-0. That's what that's like.
But no, it's just a different situation.
I don't see the correlation there. No correlation.
There's some good value receivers again this week, so I don't think you have to go there. But we'll move on. We're on a good pace here. We're on a pretty good pace time-wise, so we're gonna get into some chalk talk here. We'll start at quarterback. We'll go through the quarterbacks. We'll go through all the positions that are chalky, and then we'll go through tournament pivots after. So. Cash game quarterbacks for me, I think it's Russ or Kyler. Bales, I don't know if you disagree with that.
No, I mean, I think you can add Dak. If you want to use Dak over them, I guess I would probably rather Russ right now. Seems like Kyler's going to be the guy though.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah, I don't disagree with this. I think it's funny. I mean, I did it week 1. I mean, I know he doesn't have the rushing upside, but people just don't play Matt Ryan. I don't know why.
Sam, oh my god, dude! If I bet, if I could get on my bookie right now, sign up with our promo code. If I could make a bet on the Game 3 Thursday podcast, it would be minus 5,000 that Bales mentions Devin Singletary, and it would be minus 7,500 that Sam talks about Matt Ryan. I mean, this lock of the century.
Only one of the 2 players are good though.
No, but it's Matt Ryan, he literally, he has no rushing, but he throws the ball 100 times a game because their defense is so bad.
No, I get where Sam's coming from, and I don't hate it. I just I don't think you can use Matt Ryan against Chicago instead of
I would play Cam over Ryan personally, but
I will say I would play Cam over Matt probably if I was making the 2. I mean, it's not a huge difference. I'm just saying I'm not saying I'm gonna land there. I would not X out from playing Matt Ryan and cash, saving 700 from Russ. I mean, obviously Russ is the GOAT, but I mean, I just I don't think Chicago's defense is really what it's been the last couple of years. But I don't think it's shut down.
Yeah, we'll get to that Bears game. I think we didn't get to talk about it during the games, but that is a good game for sure with how Atlanta's defense has looked. Cash game running backs for me. I mean, Zeke is playable in cash, especially on FanDuel. but I don't think he's going to end up being massive chalk like he was last week. Jonathan Taylor's my favorite play on the slate. I think he's going to go under-owned. The Jets are horrible against the run, and I mean, he came out and got 12 touches on their first drive last week. I don't know what else you could really want from him. Then you have Miles Sanders, too cheap against Cincy on both sites. Had bell cow level usage last week, and we saw Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both run all over Cincinnati on Thursday night. And then Kenyon Drake as well, I think, is cash game playable. Didn't really mention any of the value guys. So, Bales, are you on any of the value guys in cash games?
I don't think so. I think if I am, it's going to be Joshua Kelly.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just not really a Mike Davis guy. It looks like Curtis Samuel's going to play some running back. So how much Mike Davis do I really trust? Especially if he was like min price, okay, but he's 5,100. I would rather just play Joshua Kelly. That kind of goes the same with Jerick McKinnon. Like, he's only 100 cheaper than Kelly. So I just don't see a reason to move off of him. The only one that I will say, depending on, I guess we're not going to really get news that we can trust. I was going to say Jeff Wilson is 4K, but after last week and everything that we know about Kyle Shanahan, do we really trust him to let us know whether Jeff Wilson's going to play or not? And it's not like I'm going to go out there and die on the Jeff Wilson hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to me, it looks like they're going to kind of sub Wilson in for Mostert, and then they're going to keep McKinnon in his same role, maybe throw it to him a little bit more. But, I mean, they're so banged up. It's not like they have, like, they're, like everyone playing, and then they're just adding someone in. Like, they're just really banged up. So I don't know if I would want to trust that in cash. I do think Kelly's going to call. Sam, anyone that we didn't mention?
Sorry, my shit was lagging for a second. I mean,
Cool.
I don't know. McKinnon, I agree, could end up being bad chalk, and Shanahan's a big fat jerk. But Mike Davis,
wow. Wait, hold on. I got to put the parental advisory on this, dude. A big fat jerk.
I just was trying to be PG, and I got like PG half. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Mike Davis, he at least, like, even C-Mac in the game in the first one, I mean, he went out in the second, but, like, he still saw some targets even with McCaffrey back there. So I don't think he's a terrible play. I mean, the matchup isn't tremendous, I'd say. I mean, the Chargers still have a good defense. They've not given up a ton of running backs, but I'm saying I don't think he's like number one. I don't think that someone like Mike Davis or McKinnon is gonna be like the normal like guy gets injured and then all of a sudden he's like 50 to 60% owned. I don't think that's gonna happen. So I don't think you have to play him. I would say I think Mike Davis is the one guy cheap. I don't mind. But I agree with you. I like Zeke. I'll definitely. I mean, honestly, what I really like my three would be Zeke, Jonathan Taylor, and Mike Davis. But then again, Kenyon Drake is good. So,
yeah, Drake I think is a lock on FanDuel. DraftKings, I'll see if I end up with him. I have no idea yet. Cash game wide receiver. I mean, Nuke Hopkins obviously is a really strong play. Anyone in that Dallas-Seattle game is a really strong play. CeeDee Lamb's my favorite. I think I really want to play him. I think Djax is playable with Rager out, which we just got that news Wednesday afternoon. I think Djax is going to be playable. And then Bales alluded to it earlier, but KJ Hamler looked really good last week. I know Jeff Driscoll. So this is my thing with the Broncos. Jeff Driscoll is bad, but Drew Lock is also bad. So I don't really think it's like, is it really that big of a discount going from Drew Lock to Jeff Driscoll? Like, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
No.
And he's only $3K min price. Obviously he's really fast, but he just looked good. He was wide open in the end zone last week. Later on in that
His
game,
routes are nasty.
Yeah, he's a freak. So I do think he's playable at min price. But Sam, I'll go to you first.
Are we playing Darnell Mooney at 3K in cash?
Yeah, like wouldn't you rather play Hamler?
I'd rather play Hamler, but I'm fine with either of them. I'll play them both over Bird.
Ooh.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I agree with Ben. I mean, I would still, Ben, even with the price increase, and it's not even that, I would still play Deontay Johnson. The Texans are so bad on defense. Like, I would totally.
I didn't mention him. That's a good one. He's right in that tier with CD.
Yep.
Like in Gallup. I think Deontay Johnson's definitely playable. He burned me. I didn't play him in cash last week. Led the team in targets again. He did not practice today, so that's something to monitor. I don't really know what would happen if he was out. We'd probably get maybe some Chase Claypool chalk against Houston. Obviously, would bump up Juju. That would be an interesting situation if Johnson didn't go, but I'm assuming he'll be fine. 100% he is cash playable too, though.
Why is Allen Robinson only 6-1?
Yeah, I was gonna bring him up, dude. I was talking to Matt earlier this week, like saying I wanted to play Robinson in cash. Like it's such a good spot for him. He's got the targets, he just hasn't connected for like a big play yet. And if there's a matchup for him for the big play, it's the Falcons, right? Like such a good spot for Robinson. But Bales, do you have anybody else to add?
He's my number one rated wide receiver.
I don't hate it. I think he's
Allen Robinson. I love him.
Yeah, I'll definitely be overweight to him.
Bill, sorry, I just cut you off a second time on the segment, but have you guys seen that Allen Robinson? He has I think 47% of his passes have been deemed catchable.
Yeah, it's like Trubisky has just been.
It's so terrible. Bad, so bad.
I think I'll just add Calvin Ridley. He's expensive now, but I mean, what the guy's doing is incredible. Targets aren't really going to stop coming, and that's a pretty fine game. I don't think don't play him over like DeAndre Hopkins or anything, but if you can get up to Calvin Ridley, I don't really have any issues whatsoever going there.
Yeah, we didn't mention it because we didn't go over the game, but if Julio Jones was out, he didn't practice today. I'm assuming he'll be fine because Julio always plays through that stuff, I think. But if he were to miss, I mean, Calvin Ridley would just be like, how would you not play Calvin Ridley if Julio was out, right?
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Russell Gage.
Yeah, I don't know. Every week people are like, yeah, Russell Gage can't keep doing this, but he was good last season once they traded Sanu. I actually think he's like kind of good, and they throw.
He's
the ball.
Also getting targets.
Yeah, but they throw the ball. People are like, say like he can't keep getting targets like that, but like they throw the ball so much. I don't see why he can't.
Brian throws the ball 100 times a game, and like it's because like he's not Julio or Ridley, so he's just deemed bad. Because he's just behind two elite receivers. Like that's why he's deemed as bad.
Yeah, I like Russell Gage though. I think he's good. And then cash game tight ends. I mean, someone talk me. How am I not playing Logan Thomas? Third week in a row. The Browns cannot cover tight ends, and he played even more than he did in week 1 last week. Like he barely left the field. So how do I not play him? He's too cheap.
I love Logan Thomas. Can I shooting some Drew Sample at 3,500?
Yep, that's how you don't play him.
I do like Drew Sample. I'm not gonna lie. Commanded 9 targets after Uzomah got hurt.
Uzomah went out. It's like Drew Sample was the only receiver on the field.
Yeah, and the Eagles are another team. They gave up that Logan Thomas touchdown in week 1, then gave up 3 to Higbee last week. I do think he's playable, but I prefer Thomas at picking 1.
I prefer Thomas, but I outlined him in my GPP article because I actually think that people are going to play Drew Sample, and I think that people will also move above Thomas to get Mo Alley-Cox if Jack Doyle's out. Because, I mean, Mo Alley-Cox was like legitimately good last week, and Logan Thomas gets the volume, but he has yet to be like a legitimate threat, really. Like we think he's pretty good yet, but he has yet to really flash what Mo Alley-Cox did last week. So when you look at Logan Thomas, where if you're going to play him in cash, which I'm 100% fine with because the matchup is as good as it gets, I think the chalk probably either moves slightly above him to Mo Alley-Cox or slightly below him to Drew Sample.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for Cox as well, so I do like that call. And then we'll move to some tournament pivots. Quarterback for me, once again, Josh Allen. I don't know, like, why would you want to play anyone other than Josh Allen? No, I'm kidding. But I think Allen is a really strong play in tournaments. And I think, honestly, are you guys interested in any Trubisky against Atlanta?
Yep.
I do think he's in play.
He's in my article. He hasn't been that bad. And I don't mean in terms of his talent. I mean, for a fantasy perspective. And Atlanta's pass defense is just absolutely horrid. If you like Allen Robinson, you probably like Trubisky, because if Allen Robinson goes off, that means Trubisky's hitting him. If you're saying Trubisky's so bad that you can't play him, then he's not going to hit Allen Robinson, and it's just going to continue to miss him.
Trubisky could easily throw for like 1 touchdown to Allen Robinson and like 211 yards and 3 picks and like 100 plus yards go to Robinson, like that's very viable.
Trubisky could
That's why I'm not playing him in cash, though.
He could easily get benched at halftime, which exactly what you said. That's why we don't play him in cash. But for tournaments, I do think he's in play. And then I would add Cam as well. Sam, you got anybody else you like? Other than Matt Ryan, of course.
I'm just gonna say it. Joe Burrow looked damn good. I don't care.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.
I like Burrow.
I think I'm not going to say that Cincinnati's going to win the game, but it is so not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, if they just don't get down early, I mean, oh man, yeah, I like Burrow.
Yeah, Bales, I'll start with you for little tournament pivots at running back.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my tournament pivots we kind of outlined in cash: Joshua Kelly and Kenyon Drake. I feel like they're going to be lower owned than what we're thinking. Hopefully, at least anyway. I'll add some other ones. If Zach Moss is out, Devin Singletary, and if Zach Moss plays, you can still kind of go Singletary and just hope that Moss is a little banged up and Singletary gets more snaps. Austin Eckler at 6,800. He looked much better and more involved in the passing game with Herbert. Now, obviously, Tyrod Taylor's out this week, so I have no issues whatsoever there. And then, I mean, if you want to take your shot on someone like Nick Chubb or even Kareem Hunt, I know Hunt's price tag is really, really creeping up, but they both look like they're going to sustain major roles. And I don't really have an issue with either one of them this week.
Yeah, Sam, give me yours.
I kind of outlined it before in the game. Chris Carson, you would be shocked to realize actually is for like percentage of team targets, like to running back. I mean, he's number 1 in actually on the main slate, which is kind of crazy to think about. Now that's because C-Mac's not on the slate, but technically. But I like Chris Carson a lot in a game where everyone's going to attack the passing, which again I don't disagree with. But I mean, Chris Carson has 9 targets through 2 games. I also like, I mean, assuming he's actually fully healthy and he seems to be because he played last week. I like James Conner. I feel like no one's going to play him, but Houston blows. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if James Conner right now is going to be like the 100% snap guy, but they're pretty good last week. He does get targets when he's playing and he has a lot of rushes. So I like James Conner. And then I don't know. I'm not going to play him in the same game, but like David Johnson's going to have a good game like 1 week, right? I mean, week 1 he played pretty well, but like
I like Johnson. I think he's good.
It's just tough. I mean, like I feel like David Johnson's the kind of person where like, and especially if Duke Johnson's not in leeching anything, like he's kind of part of the game script, even if they're losing, which I expect him to be, because I think he can still get a lot of checkdowns and everything. So obviously do not play them in the same game, but I kind of like David Johnson. If you're playing 20 lineups, I expect him to be like 5% owned, and you can easily just put him in a couple and be able to the field. So I don't mind that.
Yeah, I love that Carson call. I think that's like, so if you're playing tournaments and you don't want to stack that game, right, because you have it in cash or whatever, just put in Chris Carson and then play whatever quarterback receiver stack that you want to play, and then you still got some exposure to that game. I think that's a good call. Lockett and Jonathan Taylor week for me. Like I just want him in every lineup, and then Henderson in that game I think is going to shoot out. It's interesting. Wide receiver tournament plays. Sam, I'll start with you here.
Yeah, so I got a bunch of bad takes for this one. So ready.
Oh boy,
here we go.
The pod might just miraculously end here.
I do not know why. I play Mike Williams every single week, and he literally never works. But I'm going to play him because his upside is massive if Herbert can just get on the damn ball, which he probably can't. I like Mike Williams in a game I think should be pretty competitive. And then I'm going to play kind of like Darius Slayton because now that Shepard's out. I would like Bale's only reaction to my Darius Slayton take.
I think Darius Slayton is a weekly fantastic tournament option because it doesn't matter what defense he plays, he can pop off for 130 and 2. I don't think that Sterling Shepard really changes his game that much. It's just going to help Golden Tate. Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard much closer. Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram much closer. I think Darius Slayton is a good player. My problem is he just doesn't ever really see the consistent volume, and I don't am I ever going to tell you not to play him in a tournament? Not really. I mean, the guy can go. You saw him against the Steelers. He can just go off whenever. It's just he's only going to do it a couple times a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's more. I guess I'm basing it again. I keep kind of referring. I mean, we only have such a small sample. I mean, he's seen 14 targets total. I mean, it's not like he's exploding, but I mean, he's played the most snaps of the wide receivers, and again, they've had a lot of injuries, so he's on the field. And with the Giants being bad, I mean, they're going to be trailing a lot. So I mean, I agree that he's never someone who I would ever feel safe with in cash, but I mean, he's never going to be over like 3% owned because the Giants are the Giants. So I like him as a tournament call.
Yeah, I didn't mention this at quarterback, but I like Herbert more than Burrow this week, I think, in DFS. I think it's a sneaky spot at home. Not sneaky just because everybody knows the Panthers defense is bad, but I don't think anyone's going to play Justin Herbert. So Robinson for me, I like DJ Moore on the opposite side of that game with the Chargers. I like Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. I like that call him. I think you can use either of them. Lot of good tournament receivers, just because I think ownership's going to be so heavily concentrated on those two games in the afternoon. So a lot of good tournament plays there. And then tournament tight ends. I mean, typically we say spending up is contrarian at tight end in tournaments, but there's no Mark Andrews. There's probably no George Kittle. There's no Travis Kelce, right? There's really no one to spend up on. So I think, it'll be easy to get contrarian at the lower levels because you just find the chalk and pivot off it. Bales, do you have anybody you like? Like, I think Sample might honestly be the one that sticks out to me because I'm assuming Thomas is going to be chalk, and then Mo Alley Cox is obviously a good play as well at 3,800.
I'm just going to flip the script on you. I actually like Logan Thomas as the GPP because I think Sample's going to be chalk. But I got my turn skipped at wide receiver. I'm just going to add one quick guy too. AJ Green, 22 targets. He's getting a ton, plenty of air yards. It's just that he hasn't connected with
Dude,
Burrow.
That's a good call. So Green and TY both look just completely washed, but I think they're both really good tournament plays this week. TY, especially with Campbell out, maybe we could get him in the slot again. That would be ideal, I think, for fantasy. But he just looks bad, and AJ Green looks really bad. But I mean, Burrow is just throwing to him.
Volume over talent.
Yeah. If they're going to keep throwing to him, he's definitely in play. I'm not going to argue with that one. Sam, who do you like tournaments at tight end?
My favorite tight end pivot by far is Dallas Goedert. He's actually seen more targets than Ertz. He's seen more red zone targets. He has a better points per snap, better points per touch, and they just run a lot of two tight end sets. I think Ertz is never a bad play, and there's a lot of time his Wentz go to, but I think Goddard is an awesome tournament play. I mean, he's seen 16 targets in the first 2 weeks, and I mean, I have him, and you look at the both of them. I mean, I think Goddard will be like 3% owned. Ertz will probably be like 7 to 10. I think they have equal upside just in that offense, so I think that's my favorite pivot, tight end wise, and then obviously Jonnu Smith because people don't want to pay up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. We did it, boys. We beat an hour, got under the hour threshold, which is really good. So before we head out, I'm going to get a bold call from each of you. Bales, give me a bold call for week 3.
Sam, go ahead. Hit him with your bold call.
No, I just got to spring it on you like that, man.
I didn't
It's got to be off
slightly.
the top.
All right,
I'm ready.
Adam Thielen, 8 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay. All right, Sam.
I support that call.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. I do kind of like that.
I mean, mine will be Joe Burrow throws to 3 touchdowns en route to his first NFL victory over the Eagles.
Okay. I'll go with
like that.
That's a good one too. I could see Cincy winning that game. I just have no confidence in how Phillies looked. So are we gonna talk about real quick? We got like 30 seconds. Are we gonna talk about Philly booing Wentz at home with fake crowd noise? I mean, this is about as
that
low
is
as
hilarious.
I mean, how
has
that happened? That's the best thing that happened
Philly.
in week 2. It is Philly. That is Philly. But
that's what Philly does. It's the Philly fans are, I kid you not, the worst fans in the world. Everyone's like, my fan base is the worst. I promise you, If it's not Philly,
Philly,
it's not
dude,
the worst.
they're gonna be coming for Bales in the comments now. He just ruined it. They will be coming for him. But
Sorry, guys.
my bold call will be Bills and Rams goes for 75 points combined. And with that being said, pick up a package, dfskarma.com. You saw it on the intro. If you're watching on YouTube, as low as $15 gets you access to all of our core plays, final thoughts, access to Discord. And we'll see you guys on the Sunday morning stream. And Bales and I will do our usual Friday night tournament pivot podcast as well.